What is good, everyone? For this video, I'll be creating another photosynthesis, and this time I'll be covering the topic of working angles in photography. And if you're not familiar with what photosynthesis is, it's a series here where I can take any topics, ideas, questions from you, anything really, kind of a catch-all, and turn them into a video. And this time I'm covering a topic that comes up a lot in my mentorships, sometimes in my workshops, and it's a way, one of the best ways really to get people to improve their photography, especially beginners. And there's a lot of reasons behind it, but it's all about working angles. It's something anyone can do, even though many don't, and it's also something that can really improve your photography in a lot of different ways, and that's what we're going to cover here. So let's get into this photosynthesis on working angles in photography. First, I'm going to go through the different reasons and ways it can improve your photography and improve a photo, and then we'll finish off by going into my computer, and I have a few photos that we'll go through deeper where I can really show you what I mean. So let's start off with reason number one on how it can improve your photography and improve a photo, and that's that it can change the perspective. It can change your perspective, and it can change the perspective in the photo. Now, most photos, especially in the general public, 99% of photos are just taken straight on. Someone sees something of interest or something they want to take a photo of, and then they just take a photo of it. And if they're a photographer, maybe they will compose it, but still, a lot of times, especially beginners, they get kind of one-track minded. They see something interesting and they just take it head on, and they don't change it at all. It's just the straight-on perspective. Now, it can be an interesting scene and still come out to be a decent photo, but really, as a photographer, you want to try to improve the photo in some way other than just taking a straight-on shot. A few years back, I remember watching a talk at the Miami Street Photography Festival from Magnum photographer Constantine Manos, and he mentioned that a lot of times when he's working with his students, he will look at a photo and there might not be anything really bad about it, but there will be nothing that great about it either, and he'll just say, yep, that's what it looked like. And what he means by that is, yeah, that's the scene, but you didn't do anything to make it better or change it in any way. And the number one way really you can change a photo is by changing the angle and the perspective. And it does a lot of different things by doing that. So now, by changing it, now you get a different photo than you first saw, and that can open your eyes to many other things, and it can completely change the look of a photo, sometimes dramatically, where it's a completely different photo just by moving. So imagine you have a few elements here. You have an element in the middle, element to the right, and an element to the left, and they're kind of spread out too, and you just take a photo of that, fill the frame. But then instead, if you had moved to the left or move to the right or change the angle in some way, maybe you could have added another element or maybe seen another element in between the other elements, maybe another one here too, just by moving the angle. And now you can move in a little bit and have them a little more compact in the scene. So now the frame and scene's even more filled. You get closer. It can completely change everything about the photo. You can get lower too. You can get higher. You can move. It just can completely change the photo and also allow you to see more things than you first saw. And by changing the perspective, you can also change the feeling of the photo, the mood, by the different angles that you play. So imagine you're taking a photo a little bit higher. That changes the feeling because now the subjects are higher, you're looking above. That changes the whole feeling of the photo. You can have the opposite effect where you're looking down. That can change the whole dynamic of the photo and the feeling. Everything, just how you move and rearrange the photo, it can change the whole feeling of it too. Another big thing that working angles can do is it can either add or subtract elements in the scene or the frame. So by moving around and moving the angles, you can add different things. You can add subjects in the background or different things going on. You can put it in the scene by just moving. So if you're facing this way and there's something going on over here that's interesting, just by moving, you can add it to your scene, and then you can have that piece over there too. Or you can have the opposite effect by eliminating. So say something's behind a subject a little bit to the left and you don't like it. Maybe it's distracting, maybe it's a bright color, maybe it's just a mess. So by moving a little bit this way, now it's out of the scene. So you can make different choices and really change the whole scene just by moving and subtracting or adding elements in there. And that brings on decision making too. It can make a photo more interesting by adding things or adding connections, or it can save a photo from being ruined by eliminating distractions. Sometimes if you're just focused on one thing, you don't even notice until you see the photo that you could have moved out of the way and eliminated something that completely kind of ruined the photo. Another thing working angles can do is bring focus to the strengths of the photo or the subjects or elements in the photo that you want the viewer really to connect with or notice. So you could have a photo just straight on, but if you had moved and got to a certain angle, it can bring more attention to that. It can bring the viewer in to focus on what you want them to focus on. Lots of times, if you're not really working the angles, maybe that strong interest there doesn't get as noticed, or it just doesn't have the same impact. But by working angles and working the scene, you can really get in there and bring the viewer in and bring strength to the focus of the photo, or what you want to be the focus of the photo. A lot of times during my mentorships, when I'm going through some of their photos, I'll see scenes where I see there's interest there. They had the eye for it, but they didn't bring me in and really work the angle and bring attention and center on that. Another big thing that working angles can do is if you have lines or geometry or different things, by moving you can completely change the look of the scene. So if you have lines and you line them up, say you have a pole here and then a line here, and you move it so it connects, make it more visually appealing, or make it more dynamic, or create illusion. There's all types of different things you can do. And when we go into my computer too, I'm going to have a photo example to show you what I mean, how working angles can change the whole geometry of the scene, and you can move things. You can frame within frame. Obvious example is moving and then placing something inside a window, which frames them in there and brings focus, but there's much more complex examples too. You could move with different poles, could move and frame, trees can frame people within, but you can also create illusion by lining things up. You can create kind of a odd scene too, and all types of different things by working the geometry of your environment, by working the angles of the geometry. And I think I did mention it earlier quickly, but one huge thing that working angles can do is it can make you see things you wouldn't have seen. Now, a lot of times when you get one-track minded, then you just focus on the interest that you first saw. But if you had worked the angles and moved around, you would have seen more. A lot of times I'll see more. I'll have something that's interesting, but then I'll work around and work angles, and then I'll see, oh, I see that over there. And it's not necessarily that you see something out there that you wouldn't have seen, but maybe you'll see the whole scene differently too. Like I said previously with using the geometry, but maybe you realize when you move, it completely changes the whole look, and now you can line things up and do more with what you saw. So now you can add to the interest you saw, but it just opens your eyes a lot more. And not only can that improve the photo right then, but in the future now you might notice things that you wouldn't have seen before. It can just, it's partly experience, but when you get in the habit of working angles and working scenes, it just allows your eyes to see more and get more experience. And then down the road, when you see interest, you're more ready to put it together into a more interesting photo than you would have if you hadn't always been working different scenes like that. You just start to notice things on the fly that you wouldn't have if you were just always taking straight on shots and really not looking for more. And one last reason working angles can really improve your work is it puts you more into the photo. Now, that's a huge thing with photography, especially street photography. A lot of it's about you putting you into the photo, you making that photo your own. So if you're just taking straight shots like 99.9% of the people would do out there, yes, maybe you did have a good eye to see some interest, but you didn't do anything with it. So just past clicking the shutter and seeing it, you didn't change it, you didn't make it yours. And when it comes to style, if you're looking to find your personal style, it's going to be really hard to do it if you're never really working angles. And that's one way to really find what you like, and it allows you to really feel the scene. So if you want to make photos yours, especially as a beginner when you're trying to find your voice, working angles and working the scene is one way to really do that and make the photo yours. So those are some of the many ways that working angles is such an effective way to improve yourself as a photographer and also improve a photo. So now to even further show you, I have some photo examples. We're going to go into my computer and I'll really show you the different ways that working the angle can improve a photo. So let's go. Okay, so I selected 20 photos of mine that can show a variety of ways that angles can change a photo. And I'm going to go through these pretty quickly and just point them out. And I kind of separated them in categories too. But the first few here are more about kind of how you use angles to change somewhat of a look or illusion in this case. So here, by finding this specific angle, I could line things up and create the illusion of a missing body here. So I did have to find that perfect angle there where you couldn't see anything else but the legs. But that's one way that angles can completely create a different photo. Here's another example of changing things by lining things up at a certain angle here. So I had to obviously get really low to create this somewhat of an illusion and effect here, but by hiding his body there and just cutting off his hand right here, I also lined up the tire to the top part of this building behind there to add a little more effect to the illusion there. Lined up his legs coming down the middle, the wheel back here. So everything is lined up. It's a mixture of finding angles and composition, but the angle here really changed the photo. So here you have another one where I had to angle it perfectly so when this man walked by, I knew the tire would outline the circles behind there like that. So I had to predict somewhat of the angle there before he passed by. Here I had to find the right angle where I wanted to fill up this white part so I could get her completely in there. So there was no overlapping, but I wanted her to fill it up too. And then this is timing, but the angle part here was just finding that right angle and distance. Here is another one where finding the right angle got the effect that I was looking for. So you have a couple here, but by lining things up here, I had to take a few shots to get the right angle here, I could get the illusion of these white pants. So I found something interesting where I knew that if I had the right angle, I could create something like this. And so I had to line things up and angle it. So I created this illusion and effect here. Here is another somewhat of an illusion shot, but he had this motorcycle mirror there, and I had to play around with the angles here so I could line up the reflection with the background here so it creates the illusion almost like this is looking through instead of a reflection. But I had to find the right angle to match that up there. Now here we're not using angles to create an illusion or completely change the look, but we're more using angles to get an interesting composition that creates separation between all the different elements. So here I knew that they were going to be throwing this watermelon, and I didn't want it to be caught here or lower here, so I had to get a little bit lower so I could catch it there. At the same time, I need an angle here, so when they pass, I can separate them and then also separate the hand here. So I had to find an angle to get that. I just didn't walk straight on and take it. Here too, I had to find the right angle. At the same time, you're using angles since I am photographing uncontrolled life. It's always moving, so I'm always changing my angle too. So here, while they're moving, I'm also moving and trying to find the best angle that I can find separation between them all, but still have them be close together like this. Here again, I'm finding the right angle. Now it's more so using angles maybe to frame things, frames within frames. But here I had to find the right angle where you can see all the different subjects there, but they're all framed within frames there too, nicely. So I had to find the right angle for that. You have people here, 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 and here. So it's not just a straight on shot. I had to find the right angle. Here again, this is a little bit more frame within frame a bit because you have all white here. So I'm using the effect of the white here, but when it comes to angles, I'm trying to find the right angle where this kind of connects here with the white and it leaves a little bit of non-white space here for her to walk right in and kind of be framed within there. So it even brings her out even more there. Here, it's very simple. I just tried to find the right angle where I could have them be right between the horizon and the wall here. So that's a simple example, but just finding the right angle where I can have a leading line here and then have them framed within there and then have these on both sides of them like that. Now here I'm using mirrors, but I need the right angle to catch the different reflections that I want. So in this case, I wanted cars in this one and I wanted some people in this one like this. So I found the right angle where when people did walk by, which wasn't often in this case, but I knew if anybody was walking by, they would walk right by here. And then I knew that cars would be coming down here. So it's about timing, but also finding the right angle that's going to work. Here too, I'm trying to frame them within the environment there, so I need to find the right angle to do that. Again here, this is another one where people are moving constantly, so I'm trying to move too with them because I knew that I wanted to place them in here and frame them like this and then also have separation and some flow there. But since they were moving and I didn't totally know what they were going to do, I could just predict. I had to move with them and predict the right angle at the right time. Here we have a little bit of framing within framing and reflections here. but I had to find the right angle where I could frame them in there through the window while also catching this reflection of the children here and then having him here too. So you're dealing with multiple elements here because you're going through the window, you're going through a reflection, and you're going in the car here. Here, it's about predicting, but also finding the right angle where I could frame him there, frame the boat there, frame the child there as they're walking, and frame them there too. So I had to get close and find the right angle. Here, by using the environment, I could find the right angle to line the cactus up right here, or the cacti. So it kind of outlines the land here and outlines here and then frames her within there. And then has the buildings and the hills back here. So it is about finding the right angle and lining things up to create a more visually appealing image there. Now here I'm using angles to not only fit this large statue in there, but also to give it a bit of mood. You already have the mood of the fog, but by catching the statue up like this and then down here like this, it shows how much larger than life the statue is, towering above them as they look up. So it gives some mood there and also, of course, fits them in there. Here is the opposite. Now I'm trying to get above because I saw her. She was interesting as she was walking by, and I saw this. So I knew to fit them in together, I would have to. She was shorter than me, of course, but I did have to kind of get up on my tippy toes and bring the camera in like that to get this to come together like this. And we'll finish off with this one, but this one was very quick. The police were there. The police were tear gassing people, and I knew that I didn't have much time. So I saw this woman walking by in front of the police, and I had to run out there and think really quick because I knew I would only have one shot. And I knew that they're all wearing black, the policeman and her. I knew if it was just straight on, she would just get kind of lost with the policeman here in the background. So I wanted to create some separation here. So when I ran out there, I just kind of squatted down real quick so I could get her above them in the blue sky. So you can see them all like this. All right, so that was just a few photo examples of how working angles can improve a photo. Now, that doesn't mean you're always going to be wanting to work angles. When you feel a photo, sometimes you just take the photo. It can be instinctual, especially if it's like a moment that's going to be gone. Take the shot. You don't want to miss the shot while you're working angles. But it's good to, if you have time to practice and get in the habit of working angles, changing perspective, and seeing how you can make the photo yours and improve the photo. Because really, when it comes down to it, you want to find interest, but you also want to be able to make the photo look better than what you saw too. That's the ultimate goal, really. So that brings us to the end of this photosynthesis on working angles in photography. If you have any questions or ideas or topics you'd like to see me cover in this series, photosynthesis, then just send them to me and I'll try to make them into a video like I did here. So send me DM on Patreon or email me at 100majorcities@gmail.com. That's 100majorcities@gmail.com. But in the meantime, thanks for watching and I'll see you next video. Cheers.